Yeah. This is a really important bill which reaffirms this government's commitment to the public ownership of what is one of Australia's most critical infrastructure assets, the NBN. And I just don't know where to begin with some of what I've heard from those opposite while I've been sitting here waiting to speak. But the member for Flinders has just said that there's something wrong with the Prime Minister saying that in this day and age every Australian child should have a place to study with access to the NBN. I mean, I think that is an excellent thing for us to aspire to. But what we've heard from those opposite is they just don't get vision. They don't get nation building. They don't want people to have things that they don't pay for if they can't afford them. That's what this is really about. The idea that every Australian would have had access to fibre to the premises broadband as was originally proposed by the absolutely visionary plan under the Rudd government that was the NBN, that those opposite absolutely trashed of 10 years in government, among other things that they've trashed. They just don't get it. They're not vision people. They don't want to see Australia leading the world. The part of the point of the NBN when it was initially proposed was the ubiquitous nature of fast broadband. The fact that it was ubiquitous, that everyone was to have access to it, that everyone would have this very fast broadband, would revolutionise the way we've delivered services. The access to things like education and healthcare for people in regional areas and remote areas that they always claim to be representing. But anyway, here we are. So this bill is an important bill that makes explicitly clear that keeping the NBN preserved in public ownership is an explicit requirement. It removes the current conditions for terminating government ownership by repealing most of Part 3 of the NBN Act. Because Labor is the party of the NBN. As I said, it was a visionary idea under the Rudd government. It was established and began the rollout with the goal of a fully connected Australia. The original vision for a fibre-to-the-premises connected Australia was trashed by those opposite when they came to government, and it's been left to the Albanese Labor government to clean up their mess, as it has been with so many policy areas. But make no mistake, those opposite would jump at the first opportunity to sell this important asset if given the chance. And I think the speeches, just those I've heard in the short time I've been here, make that very clear, that they don't understand the NBN and they would take the first opportunity to trash it. Just like they did with Telstra, just like they did with Medibank and just like they did with the Australian Public Service, the Coalition is addicted to privatisation and outsourcing, with the Australian public always paying the price. What we're doing today is ensuring the NBN's future. Commitment to public ownership is vital for the NBN to deliver the services Australians rightly expect. Now let's look back on the history of the NBN under those opposite. The Liberal Party's handling of the NBN stands as a stark reminder of how critical it is to approach significant national infrastructure with vision and with commitment to the public interest. Vision and commitment to the public interest. I know that's difficult for those opposite. Under the negligence of the Coalition, the initial vision for a world-class fibre-based NBN was undermined. Instead, they opted for a multi-technology mix that left Australia lagging behind our global peers in both speed and reliability. This was an approach that resulted in increased costs, blown-out timeframes and outcomes that fell well short of what Australians were promised and what we deserved. Despite claiming that their strategy would save money and accelerate the rollout, the reality was an NBN fraught with issues, delays, unexpected costs and widespread dissatisfaction among users. The Liberal Party's poor decision-making left the network under-resourced and underperforming, impacting businesses and households alike. What should have been an enabler for economic growth and digital participation became a source of frustration for millions of Australians. Their governance also demonstrated a willingness to privatisation over public benefit, and this is what they always do. In 2020, they declared the network built and fully operational, a move that set the stage for its eventual sale. They even supported NBN Co's push to raise wholesale prices by CPI plus 3%, a policy that would have hit Australians hard, undermining affordability in favour of profit-driven motives. It took the intervention of Labor and the ACCC to protect consumers from these proposed price hikes. The Coalition's legacy is marked by missed opportunities and the weakening of what could have been an unparalleled national asset. That is what's so sad about this, the inability of the Coalition to embrace vision for Australia to lead the world, which is what we were trying to do with the NBN, and for all Australians to share in that, for everyone, to have the chance to have the fastest possible broadband that would revolutionise the way we did things. But instead they prioritised short-term gains and ideological commitments over long-term strategic investment. And the Liberal Party left Australia playing catch-up on connectivity and digital capability. Our government is committed to reversing this legacy and ensuring that such missteps are not repeated. We stand by the principle that the NBN must remain in public hands, fostering upgrades, innovation and affordability for all. It's not just about restoring what was compromised, it's about moving towards a vision for a more connected, just and secure future for Australia. This stance is driven by the need for continuous upgrades to the network, regulatory oversight of wholesale pricing and, most importantly, the delivery of affordable broadband for all Australians. We're delivering on the NBN's promise of equity and access to the digital economy. In 2022, the Albanese Labor government underscored this commitment through the updated Statement of Expectations for NBN Co. Our directive was clear. Public ownership is the cornerstone that will enable us to extend more fibre throughout the fixed line network, lay the groundwork for transitioning to next-generation satellite technology and modernise our universal service obligations. These steps are essential for a more connected and inclusive Australia, one that leaves no community behind, whether they be in the heart of our cities or the vast expanses of our rural and regional areas. And improvements to the network are ongoing. Just last week, I was pleased to hear that further upgrades will begin shortly in my electorate of Canberra, and this is something that Canberrans have been speaking to me about. When we were in opposition in the last term, people were disgusted with the access that they had to the NBN and how far it fell short of what was promised. And so I'm proud that we are fixing that, including here in my electorate. The fibre upgrade program has been bolstered by the government's $2.4 billion commitment over 4 years to provide an additional 1.5 million fibre-to-the-node premises with access to full fibre. As a result, 90% of premises in the NBN fixed line footprint can place an order for gigabit-capable services by the end of next year. In our recent announcement, 37 ACT suburbs have been announced for inclusion in the fibre upgrade program. These include Ainslie, Braddon, Bruce, Cook, Dixon, Garran, Griffith, Hawker, Kaleen, Lynham, Macquarie, Narrabundah, Reid, Turner and Yarralumla, here in my electorate of Canberra, providing faster speeds for Canberrans as part of the publicly owned national broadband network. And, I think a lot of people in this place don't understand that, Canberra is a real community with real needs as well, and I know that, a lot of those opposite, they love to trash on Canberra, because public servants live here and they hate them too. But, it's really good that we're actually getting improved access to the NBN, because we don't have it either, because what their government did to the NBN over 10 years of neglect and trying to destroy it affected us here in the nation's capital as well. So I am pleased that we are addressing that and that those suburbs are getting what they should have got a long time ago, thanks to the Albanese Labor government, because the NBN is a Labor legacy that is worth protecting. Deputy Speaker, it is crucial to remember that the NBN isn't just an infrastructure project. It's a strategic asset intertwined with our national security and cyber security needs. Ongoing government ownership ensures that the NBN's operations align with national interests, protecting Australia from the significant risks that foreign ownership could pose. To sell off the NBN would be to jeopardise this oversight and expose Australia to serious sovereignty and security concerns. In this bill before the House, we reaffirm that the NBN is not just a commodity to be sold. It's a vital public service that underpins our economy, social fabric and national security. The reaction to this bill by those opposite is very telling, and it demonstrates yet again their ideological obsession with privatisation. And I'll remind the House again, because it bears repeating, the former coalition government, under the member for Bradfield, initiated measures in 2020 to prepare the NBN for sale, declaring it built and fully operational. And having been here for the member for Bradfield's contribution to this debate just a few speakers before, it is obvious that these are people that would destroy the NBN if they ever were back into government. They have a complete disdain for it because, as I said, it was a visionary, nation-building project. It was about universal access for all Australians, and these are things that don't sit comfortably with their ideology. Their readiness for privatisation included supporting a proposal from NBN Co to raise wholesale prices by CPI plus 3%, a move aimed at boosting revenue streams before a sale. This would have had significant repercussions for consumers, especially in terms of affordability. Labor, alongside the ACCC, firmly rejected this proposal to safeguard Australians from unnecessary price hikes. That would have been a disaster. We need only look at history to see the consequence of privatising public telecommunications infrastructure. The Howard government's sale of Telstra serves as a cautionary tale. Promises were made about maintaining service quality and affordable prices, but those promises were never met. On top of that, the sale left the government without the leverage to spearhead the rollout of fibre broadband, necessitating the Rudd government's launch of the NBN project. Deputy Speaker, this bill did not appear out of thin air. Our ongoing consultations with communities across rural and regional Australia have sent a clear and consistent message. People want the NBN to remain under government ownership. They recognise that only with public oversight can the network continue to deliver modern, accessible and affordable communication services. Keeping the NBN in public hands is not just a strategic decision, it is a commitment to the prosperity and connectivity for every Australian. It is about ensuring that the digital divide narrows and that no one is left in the dark, disconnected from the opportunities that the modern world offers. Because, yes, to the member for Flinders, we do believe that, in an updated version of Gough Whitlam's vision that every child should have a place to study with a lamp on, we do believe that every Australian student should have the NBN, should have access to reliable, fast broadband, because if they don't have it, how will they ever keep up with their peers? How will they ever have the same opportunities if they don't have access to these things? And how will we ever deliver those things if we don't keep it in public hands? If it's not about building our nation, about a strategic asset to benefit all Australians that we regularly update and improve. The Albanese Labor government will always stand firm when it comes to public ownership of the NBN. We will continue to safeguard the NBN from those who would seek to sell it off. The NBN is an essential tool for Australia's economic resilience, social equity and national security. Labor will not repeat the Liberal mistakes of the past when it comes to privatisation. Instead, we will build on the promise of a connected, secure and inclusive future for all, because that is what Labor governments do. When we come into government, we bring vision. We bring the hopes of Australians who rely on governments to ensure that they have the best chance, that every Australian has a chance at a happy, healthy, fulfilled life. Public education, universal health care, decent wages. These are things that you can thank Labor governments for. And while we're talking about Gough Whitlam, I just came from a forum where we celebrated 50 years since Gough Whitlam protected the Great Barrier Reef. But those opposites say he left Australia an economic basket case. Well, where would we be without the vision of Labor governments? A place I don't want to see. Thanks.
I thank the member for Canberra and I give the call to the member for Bean.